13-3 since April 9th, best record in the league over that span. Last night, they took down the Clippers, one of the favorites in the West in LA. New York has the same record as the Lakers, fourth in the East. Julius Randle making a case for MVP. The Knicks taking the league by storm this year. Here is why. Let's go. Julius Randle has been averaging a career high in points per game, rebounds per game, and assists per game. He's one of 5 players in the league averaging 20, 10, and 5, along with Giannis, the Joker, Russell Westbrook, and Sabonis. They've been locked in on defense. They ranked 4th in the league in defensive efficiency, on pace to have their best mark in the last 5 seasons. They're holding opponents to the lowest field goal percentage in the league. Derrick Rose, all about the Roses, traded to the team midseason, reuniting with his former coach Tibbs. Over his last 10 games, he's averaging 19 points per game, shooting 60% from the field. The Knicks are back. Chris, is the Knicks season a failure if they do not get a playoff win with how they've been playing?
No, the Knicks season isn't a failure if they don't get a playoff win. I mean, it's disappointing if they don't get past the first series, especially if they have that 4-5 matchup with the Atlanta Hawks. But it's not a failure. The Knicks are ahead of schedule with this new program under Leon Rose and Tom Thibodeau. It is. I mean, they were projected coming into this season to be right around 22, 23 wins, and we said it would be a good season preseason if they were flirting with 30 wins. You're talking about a team now that has the possibility of getting 40 wins. So no, it's not a failure. It would be a disappointment if they can't get out of the first round. But Molly, I mean, when you look at this Knicks team, this is a fun team to watch.
No
Just the improvement that they've made throughout the season. We thought they would get a lot of teams early in the regular season just because some of those playoff teams that were in the bubble, they would be a little, slow to recover because we understand it was a year unlike any other. But, I mean, the second half, it was supposed to be the Knicks taking a downturn, and this team has ratcheted it up a notch. Not only is it on the defensive end with their intensity, but how this team has had that improvement on the offensive end. One of the things that's been most impressive about it is the fact that their three-point shooting has had a drastic turnaround. You're talking about a team that's top 5 in three-point percentage now. If you couple that with the way that this team plays defense, you understand why they're where they're at right now. And so it's one of the best stories in basketball. So, no, to me, even if they don't get out of the first round, it's not a failed season. Yeah. It's a disappointment.
Max, I meant playoff series win, not playoff win. I want to make sure you guys know that. Not just one game.
Everything you just said is true, Chris. Everything you just said is true. If you asked me before the season started, I'd be like, if the Knicks get to the playoffs, this sorry bunch get to the playoffs, that's a huge success. But we're not in the beginning of the season anymore. And expectations have reset. If you can win 11 out of 12 games, you should be able to take a best of 7 from a team like the Hawks. And whether people want to admit it or not, if they lost to Atlanta in the first round, it would be disappointing. If at this point, not at that point, preseason, you're right, we are not in the preseason. At this point, if you're talking about what is a success, it's not going out, winning a game or two, letting the other team know you were there. It's beating the Atlanta Hawks. They just beat the Clippers. They won 11 of 12 at one point. They're one of the best defensive teams in the league. You know why they're shooting it better now? They play unselfishly. They stay connected both ends of the floor. Thibodeau's done an amazing job. Julius Randle's a top 5 MVP. All those things are true. Derrick Rose, 6th Man of the Year candidate. All those things are true. I take my hat off to them. But because they're true, you got to beat Atlanta in the first round now. You got to beat Atlanta in the first round. Don't sit there and tell me it's a success if you lose to Atlanta in the first round right now if you're the Knicks.
Max, you are really tripping today. You are really, really tripping. And it doesn't make any sense because for the simple fact that no one even expected the Knicks to even be here. And don't discredit or try to discount and say, oh, we're here now, so now we're going to set the bar even higher. No, that's not how it works. Like, they had to work and grind their way all throughout this season to get to this point, to make the postseason. We're talking about an organization, a franchise that we haven't been able to say nothing good about for over a decade, Max. And here they are, right? A young stud in R.J. Barrett who's starting to improve and starting to show us a glimpse of why he was the number 2 pick. You have Nerlens Noel who's anchoring the defense. They're playing inspiring basketball. Julius Randle. Tom Thibodeau has brought the culture back. Worldwide West. And when you hear other guys around the NBA speak out about the New York Knicks like LeBron James and all the other players that have said that this team is good and it's great for basketball that the Knicks are playing this way. They have exceeded expectations. I don't care if they get swept. Max, I don't care if they get swept in the first round. No one will say that this season is a disappointment. They could get swept by the Atlanta Hawks, and no one should open their mouth and say a damn word.
Pardon me, gentlemen, but if I were to ask you the same question about the Phoenix Suns, who also have not been relevant in forever, who also had a bad owner who made bad decisions and was a poorly run franchise, who also did not make the playoffs last year, what would you say? Are they allowed to lose a first-round series and call the season a success?
Yeah, if they lose to the Los Angeles Lakers, I think everybody around basketball would understand that the Lakers, when healthy.
What if they're not playing the Lakers? What if they're not playing the Lakers?
Well, here's the thing. I think context matters. Who their opponent is matters. But when we're looking at the New York Knicks, we're saying, okay, if they're scheduled to play who they're going to play based on the current standings, which is the Atlanta Hawks, we're saying that, yeah, it would be a disappointment, but we're not going to say that it's a failed season. I don't think you can.
So what would you say about Phoenix if they weren't playing the Lakers in the first round? At this point, you guys are going to front and pretend? You wouldn't say, yeah, that's disappointing. Phoenix went out in the first round?
Max, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. No one expected the Phoenix Suns to be a contender. I expected them to be a top 5 team in the Western Conference, but I didn't think they was going to be a title contender. But they have set the bar. They have come out.
They reset the bar. You mean?
Listen, they have came out publicly and said that they have aspirations on winning the championship. So
what do you think the Knicks' aspirations are, to go out in the first round?
But Max, they
what?
Max, listen to what I'm trying to tell you, man. It is different circumstances. When you look at a guy like CP3 and why he chose to go to the Phoenix Suns, CP3 is towards the end of his career. What do he need to accomplish? He needs to accomplish winning the championship. You think he just went over there to the Phoenix Suns just for the hell of it, Max? No, he went over there because he saw something.
Right, let me get in here. I want to ask you.
I want very well. The expectations are reset. Same with the Knicks.
Max, I'll come back to you. Do you think the Knicks are the biggest story this season? Is part of the reason why? Because they aren't a super team.
I do. I think the Knicks are a terrific story. You know how I feel about Dolan. I jumped ship from the Knicks, moved out to L.A., and was afternoon drive basically for the Lakers on the ESPN.
Are you gonna come back home?
No, not until Dolan sells the team.
Okay.
Nope. This isn't. I'll give them this. Let me just say this. This isn't. I'm not going to pretend. Unlike you two, Chris and Kendrick, I'm not going to front and pretend that they're not easy to root for. This is an easy team to root for. They got scrappers on this team. They have dudes who play together, play for each other, both ends of the floor, and they're fun to watch. All those things are true. That doesn't mean I'm going to become a Knicks fan. No, I'm not coming back. No.
Biggest story of the season, Chris?
Yeah, that's the biggest story of the season. I mean, what Tibbs has done in terms of getting this organization pointed in the right direction after so many have tried and failed for the better part of this decade is nothing short of amazing. And so you have to give credit where credit is due. I mean, Tibbs, it should be in the conversation for Coach of the Year. And so I think it's an awesome story, especially when you consider that this team outside of Julius Randle is not a team that's overly talented. So the fact that they were able to get it pointed in the right direction, knowing that from a talent perspective, they're lacking in terms of when you compare them to the other playoff teams, I think you got to show a little bit of appreciation for it. I'm a Lakers fan, but I make it a point to watch every Knicks game just because it's a fun team.
Perk, do you love them more because they're not a super team?
I do. And you know why, Molly? Because here it is. The Knicks have been, trying to land a superstar, right? They couldn't land KD and Kyrie Irving in the free agency about a year and a half ago, right? And then all of a sudden we're like, what's next for the Knicks? They need to make a trade. They need to get a Devin Booker. No, they stood pat. They drafted R.J. Barrett. They'd already traded for Julius Randle. They add a few pieces. Tom Thibodeau comes, a defensive-minded coach. He goes out and gets 2 of his vets from the Chicago Bulls days, Derrick Rose and Taj Gibson. They're playing meaningful minutes right now. You have a rookie in Quickly who was drafted there, a Nolan Noel, who's the guy that is playing right now like with a chip on his shoulder because he's been counted out time and time again. So I love the direction, and they are the best story in basketball, Molly.
After all is said and done, the issue is James Dolan, after all these different regimes, they all promised change. Leon Rose, World Wide Wes, Tom Thibodeau, and then I have to say Julius Randle and Derrick Rose. Those 5 characters are on the national consciousness now. People are paying attention around the country who follow the NBA because they have changed the fortunes of a Marvin franchise. No doubt about it.
In all respect, because they're doing it the old school way. All right, let's take a quick break here. Big Perk, you'll be back with us in a hot second. Super Bowl champ Chris Canty will tell you which rookie quarterback